Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Wednesday evening. Hope everybody is off to a great start, except it's not the morning, it's not the radio show. While I veggie tail dance around, Bert, take the graphic down for God's sakes. We are happy to have you in for another episode of the Primetime Show. It's not down on my end, you dope. I can see. Figure it out. For God's sakes, I'm naked and afraid out here in the wild. This is a disaster. Don't look behind the curtain. There, I'll put it up myself. Jesus Christ. What a disaster. Anyway, crisis averted for the Tennessee Titans. That's what we're here to talk about this evening. We will discuss the sigh of relief, a close call for Treylon Burks at Vikings camp. We are going to get into what happened today in Minnesota, and we'll talk about how you feel with the depth of the wide receiver room, because you had your first scare. And now, you just have to start thinking about such things. We will also get to rising and falling at the end of the show, whose stock went up, whose stock went down. Throughout the course of the week in sports, a lot of good stuff to get to. You'll hear from Ryan Tannehill in just a moment. But first, I need you guys to share this show. If you are on Twitter, please retweet the show. Bottom right-hand corner of your screen is where you do so. If you are on Facebook Live, like who we got? We got Demetrius Conwell, we got Matt Drew, we got Beverly Tortolette, or Tortolote. Forgive me, Beverly. I probably butchered your last name. Either way, if you're on Facebook Live, you can share now to public in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. YouTube or Twitch, we got Trippin' Titans and B-Birds 18. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you tell a friend to do the same. We'd be grateful for you that way. A lot of you guys are giving me your reactions. That's the first question that we're going to get to. It's your Two Rivers Ford take. What was your reaction when you first saw the Treylon Burks injury news? And then the video afterwards, because I think the video, once you saw it with your own eyes, those of you not able, and I'm not in Minnesota, obviously, I'm still here in Nashville, but we'll be flying to Minnesota 2 days from now to cover the preseason game. I think a lot of people had the same reaction, which is, holy shit, not again. But we're going to talk about these things throughout the course of tonight's show. Let's get into it. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Wednesday. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I am proud, as always, to be presented to you by the wonderful people at the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. Wherever justice demands, Amanda J. and her team have you covered. Be protected where it comes to your constitutional rights. AmandaJGentry.com is the website. And of course, TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. Get your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. TrueMathFitness.com is a new way to work out for the new you. Close call in Minnesota today. Really scary situation where Treylon Burks in team drills against the Minnesota Vikings stretches out basically for a pass, a deep pass. The pass is completed, and ultimately, he makes the catch, but kind of stumbles in front of himself, loses his footing, and then tries to catch up with himself, does eventually stop, and then has to sit down on the turf. He's grabbing the back of his knee. So it's a pretty, substantial scare, because initially he stands up under his own power and he tries to walk off. He tries to put weight on it, and he immediately can't put weight on it, which is, of course, a terrible sign. So immediately people assume the worst, and I understand, because your wide receiver room is cursed. Like I'm not a superstitious person. You guys know me. I'm not necessarily into, bad juju and all these kind of things. I won't even let you do preseason predictions most of the time. But I am truly convinced that the Titans wide receiver group is as cursed a position as any in sports. And I was thinking about this, like, what are the most cursed position groups for every franchise, right? Like, immediately when I think of cursed position groups, Chicago Bears quarterbacks come to mind. Like, that seems to be a perpetually cursed position where the height of it has been Jay Cutler. And while Jay Cutler was a decent player, fine enough, like, to have that be like the height of your franchise's success at quarterback is a really tough thing to kind of wrap your head around. Wide receivers for the Titans fit that mold. Frankie says, FML, here we effing go. Talking about the wide receiver injury. Well, it was a scare for sure, but they did get positive news. Ian Rappaport reporting after he was carted off the field, that it was a situation that is an MCL sprain. So it is, or rather an LCL sprain, excuse me, not an MCL, but an LCL sprain, according to NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport. It happened today in practice, and he is expected to miss a few weeks after being carted off. So, it felt like a bit of a preseason crisis. So when I ask you your Two Rivers Ford take on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, what was your reaction when you saw the Treylon Burks initial injury news? We'll discuss together right after I remind you that your Two Rivers Ford take is made possible by, of course, Two Rivers Ford. Whether you are a fan of the Ford Bronco, the F-150, the Ford Escape, the Ford Explorer, the Mustang, or everything else in between, Two Rivers Ford is the best car buying experience possible. For over 40 years, Two Rivers Ford has been in business as a locally owned and operated company, always finding you the best prices on the best quality American-made Ford vehicles. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. Looking at what happened today, what was your initial reaction? I said the F word, says John Bops. Dwayne Holiday says it was similar. Ben, okay, so a lot of F words, a lot of expletives flying. Initially, says Mike Peck, devastated even. I mean, and one could hardly blame you, right? Like, I joke around about Titans wide receivers being cursed, but bless if it doesn't feel like that, right? It's about the most catastrophic injury that they could have, not named quarterback, with the promise of an interesting season, right? They've just looked like they might have the pieces to round this thing out and make it whole. And I don't know that, excuse me, I don't know that if Treylon Burks would have gone down, like for a period of time, a considerable period of time, that their season would have been over, but they're obviously a better football team with him and without him. I'm tired of preseason, says Pistol Grip. Well, this isn't preseason. This is a practice. Like, this could have easily happened at home here in Nashville than it did out in Minnesota. So, I think that while people are going to be looking to point fingers and make blame people for bad karma, or, try and turn it into a training staff discussion, like all the different ways that people spiral out of control. Like, I understand that you guys have been tortured. Your football team has been tortured with injury the past 2 seasons, and to have that happen or look like it was happening again so early on, like, nobody's going to fault you for being, let's say, a tad dramatic. And to be honest, I was of the same mindset. I'm like, God bless. How could something like this happen again? This team just cannot sit there and go through the same kind of injury situation to important, critical players year over year for a third straight season, and specifically at the wide receiver spot, and specifically with this guy. Because it's not like his fault. Like, it's not like anything that Treylon Burks did. He came down kind of clunky, outstretching for a catch. He made the catch. Like, he did what he's supposed to do. And he just, football is like that, right? This can happen. Andrew Rodriguez says, I just want a healthy season. Well, like, the inevitability of football is that football is gonna take away some of your best players. Like, you're never gonna finish the season with the same roster that you should have going into it, right? It's what it is. But I mean, to be tripping out over Treylon Burks today, and fortunately, it's far less severe than it initially might have looked, or at least that carting him off would have indicated. My initial reaction was maybe not season canceled, but how is this possible? How is this possible that this has happened again? You're going to hear from Ryan Tannehill here in just a second. Excuse me, right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is presented by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com is where you go for your dream address without the stress. The intel edge you need to succeed can be found at GaryAshton.com. So Ryan Tannehill was obviously asked about this after practice, and this was the Titans' starting quarterback earlier today.
Yeah, I just went over, checked on him. You hate seeing that. We'll find out more information, see what's really going on, but hopefully it's going to be all right. I think he seemed obviously upset, and understandably so. just thoughts and prayers are with him right now, and hopefully, it's not too bad. What'd you think?
So that was Ryan Tannehill. Kelvin says on Facebook Live, I fell on my knees and started praying. A lot of people did. A lot of people did. Like, I think that, but on the whole, I know today is going to be about Treylon and Minnesota, the joint practices, the defense balled out. Like, reading and seeing everything that happened in Minnesota today, and obviously not having been there myself as I typically am, but we'll be up there on Friday and for Saturday night's game. The practice itself seemed to be very, very much in favor of the Titans having the more competitive group, having the more competitive practice, the defense making life a living hell for Kirk Cousins and them. Like, it was a successful day on the whole, but of course this is the thing that overshadowed any of it until such time as you found out that it was an LCL sprain and that he is going to be in position to contribute sooner rather than later. Mike Peck says it didn't help with all the Titans Twitter doctors claiming they knew it was all over for him this year. Well, like, I mean, it's hard for me to, don't make injury assessments when you have no business making injury assessments is really the lesson that's there. Like, and I don't even like the doctors, the people who do have medical degrees on social media diagnosing things that they see from Twitter videos the way that some of these people do. I've never understood why that is something that we are comfortable taking as not gospel, but a lot of people cite those Twitter doctors and their analysis and, a considerable amount of the time that they're not accurate. So I've never really liked that element of them being on social media, giving people prognosis. I don't know what the plural of prognosis is, but either way, you get what I'm saying. I think that on the whole, a very productive first day in Minnesota. And that for this team right now and having talked to people who were in Minnesota with the team, what I had heard before Rappaport broke that it was the LCL sprain. What I had heard was that it was non-ACL and that they were confident at that point in time. And I think, after additional evaluation, that was determined at about 5:30 this afternoon, 5:30, 6 o'clock this afternoon. This is why I put no stock in training camp and preseason, says Benji Hall. Why? I mean, I'm confused. Why do you not put there's what are you citing as a reason for not putting any stock in training camp or preseason? I think there's plenty of things to put stock in training camp and preseason in, but you're not being specific there, Benji. Alan Rogers says, Buck, do you think that he will be ready for the start of the season? I would not even begin to guess. I would not. I have no idea. I don't even know where the LCL is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not a medical doctor. Don't ask me for my opinion on timelines for these dudes. I know that an ACL typically takes a year to get back from. Just about a year, maybe a little less than a year. That's about the extent of my knowledge. And I know that high ankle sprains can completely ruin your season, as I saw with your quarterback last year. But, ask a doctor, but not on Twitter. is how I would say. David Lee says, I saw LCL tears 1 week recovery. David, I don't know where you saw it, and I don't know what you're citing. And if you're not citing, specific sources or a doctor that you talked to that again wasn't on Twitter, I'm not asking you guys where the LCL is. I'm saying none of us, unless you are an actual doctor. Like, if you are an actual doctor, there's no way for me to verify that from your commentary on YouTube. So again, I love you guys. I love you all to death. And some of you may have medical expertise, but you'll forgive me if I'm not willing to take your medical expertise on a streaming show on a Wednesday night on, Facebook or YouTube or Twitch or Twitter. Like, wherever you saw it, unless it's a medical journal or somebody that with a PhD, like, I don't want to hear I saw it was 1 week or 2 weeks or whatever. Nobody knows. It's whenever he's back. Would it be important for him to be back for week one? Yeah, it would matter. Do I know that he's going to be back for week one? They seem optimistic, but like beyond optimism, what am I going to tell you? Eric Alonso says, don't piss Buck off. I'm not mad. My tone is bad. You're right. You're right. My tone is bad. I'm not mad at you. I'm just saying, like, don't ask people on the internet. Like, you know what I'm saying? Don't ask me for medical advice. There's a degree thank God there's a degree on my wall here in my office, but it has, last I checked, it has nothing to do with ligament, the study of knee ligaments. So in the same way that I say don't take medical advice from people on Twitter that you don't know, don't ask people for medical advice on Twitter that you don't know. And God help you if you're doing all these things on WebMD. But, I'm not mad at you. It's just helpful advice. Maybe. Trust me, Buck, I'm a rocket scientist. I know everything, says Christian Tomas. You might, but I don't. Like you might, but I don't. So I don't want this to turn into speculation. I think there's way too much of that done on the internet already, and I'm not interested in participating. I really don't. Gabriel Pilcher says, why does it look like Buck died and they replaced him with this guy? Well, Gabriel, I lost 58 pounds over the course of a year, and I have Botox now, so that's why I look totally different. And I shaved. I shaved today. I did shave. I look great. I'll be honest with you, but we're not here to feed my vanity. We're here to talk about a Titans wide receiver scare. But it's just a scare, and the prognosis is positive at this stage, and that's what you take away from this. Prognosis positive. He's going to miss some time, and that is the situation that is. If he's ready for New Orleans, great. If he's not, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Mockingbird Lane says, Buck, what do I do about my chronic diarrhea? Eat more cheese. I don't know. Whatever you got to do to back yourself up a little bit. That's the extent of my medical advice. Karen and Dean, the real estate team, says it's a mask. I do use eye masks, but this is in fact not a mask. This is my face. Sarah Blaine Dupuis, is that how I pronounce the last name? Says we love the Botox confession. Listen, I'm a Botox guy. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm a Botox guy. That's I will continue to do so. No free ads, but shout out Canvas Skin. I've got a checkup tomorrow, as a matter of fact, at 2:00. We're going to keep it going. Anyway, let's talk about Titans wide receiver depth in the comments on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. How confident are you in the depth of the Titans wide receiver room with the Treylon Burks scare today? I'm sure it shook you up. I'm sure many of you scrambled for depth charts to see who's behind him if you haven't been paying that close attention to who's on the Titans roster or what their depth looks like right now. We'll talk about this together right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is made possible not by my Botox, but by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. Wherever justice demands, that's where you go for the kind of legal team and the kind of legal protection that you need if you feel like your constitutional rights are in danger, particularly if you are a father. Your constitutional right to be a father is something that Amanda J. Gentry and her team are particularly passionate about. So if you are in need of her services or feel like your constitutional rights are under threat, go to the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. That's AmandaJGentry.com. Looking at the wide receiver core right now. Now, obviously, it's training camp. The roster is expanded. I've got my handy dandy Bible of Titans information that they hand. It's called a media guide is what it's actually. But my handy dandy media guide for the preseason that includes all 90 of the current players on this roster and even specifies them by position. See wide receiver section here. This all has to be in the brain by the end of the preseason, and then half of this roster will be gone, and all of my time spent memorizing this stuff will have been completely fruitless. Not completely, but for the most part. Anyway, so currently in your wide receiver room, you have a variety of different players, all kinds of shapes and sizes. Some have been here. A lot of them are guys who are looking to latch on. In fact, of the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 wide receivers currently on the roster. Of the 13 wide receivers, 5 of them are rookies. And if you include Treylon Burks and Kyle Phillips, who basically had a lost year, you're talking about half of the room basically in year one. So you understand that the numbers are you're not going to have 13 wide receivers. You're probably going to end up with about 5. So as you look at the depth that you have right now, and actually this is a little behind because Jacob Copeland, the UDFA out of Maryland, is still listed on here. So we'll say 12 wide receivers for the time being. So with Treylon Burks, Colton Dow, Trayshawn Harrison, who's a UDFA out of Oregon State, who's made a couple of nice plays here throughout the course of camp. Doesn't guarantee him a roster spot, but he's worth paying attention to for things like practice squad. You've got Gavin Holmes, DeAndre Hopkins, of course, UDFA Kearis Jackson from the University of Georgia, Mason Kinsey, the indomitable practice squad, Mason Kinsey, who continues to make a career for himself as a D3 wide receiver out of Berry College, and credit to Kinsey for doing so. Racing McMath, Chris Moore, Kyle Phillips, Reggie Roberson, and of course, NWI. The only person who has more experience in the NFL than NWI is Chris Moore. Chris Moore has been in the league for 8. NWI has been in the league for 4. Racing McMath is the most senior wide receiver on the roster after 30-year-old Chris Moore. And how old is NWI? NWI is 27. No. Yeah, he's 27. 27-year-old NWI, second most senior. Then it's Racing McMath, who has 4 career catches. So how do you feel about your depth? And looking around at the wide receiver position, understanding you had a bit of a scare today, at some point throughout the course of the regular season, Hopkins, Burks, Phillips, one of them, all of them are going to miss time, right, by percentage. Mason is 24. I'm not saying like by age. I'm saying by NFL experience. Those are the most senior players, the players with the most tenure in the room. Beyond Hopkins, right? Hopkins has obviously been in the league for 11 years. This is his 11th season, then Moore, then NWI, then Racing McMath. So looking at your wide receiver depth, Racy is a player that people continue to have interest in. I understand why. He's big, he's fast, he should be a better player than he is. But that's always been the discussion around Racing McMath. So until Racing McMath does something that's notable, I'm gonna kind of continue. I'm gonna kind of feel meh on him. Like he doesn't necessarily deserve a roster spot based on what he's done in training camp. It's not like I think that he has to be the odd man out, but there's nothing like what I'm saying is there's nothing that makes me feel strongly about the idea that Racing McMath should be on the Titans roster by the time the regular season starts. That 4 of these guys are probably a lock, right? Hopkins, Burks, Phillips, and Moore. Chris Moore, who is the gunner on special teams, who's a 30-year-old wide receiver and who can play some on the offense, who knows Tim Kelly. He's going to be good depth. Those 4 are probably locks, with leaves you maybe one at least, with the idea that they're keeping 3 quarterbacks, and we don't know for sure, but I feel pretty good about that idea. Leaves you theoretically 1 wide receiver spot that's open. And is anybody on that roster, Kinsey, McMath, Roberson, Holmes, Harrison, Colton Dow, are any of them good enough to keep over Nick Westbrook-Akina? Probably not. So I think you probably have 5 locks at the wide receiver position. So if we go 5 deep, Burks, Hopkins, Phillips, NWI, and Chris Moore, I feel solid about their depth. It's not great. Like, it's not the best by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely a little more comforting than you are right now. Brian Badillo says 5 is Dow, 6 is Harrison. I'd put Harrison over Dow in a heartbeat. I'd put Harrison significantly over Dow in a heartbeat. I can't speak for the coaching staff's evaluation of them, but I know that in practice, Harrison is ahead of Dow significantly. And has been a better player than Dow. Again, that's my evaluation. That's not the coaching staff. That's not Brian Carthon, who will make the final cuts and all these things. Rishi says NWI can't separate unless it's a trick play. That's fine. Who gives a shit if he's your 5th wide receiver? Like, he's your 5th wide receiver. Nobody goes 5 deep. Nobody goes 4 deep, really. The Seahawks might this year because of, their wide receiver was crazy with Lockett, DK, and then drafting Jackson, Smith, and Jigba. But okay, I feel if NWI is a 5 who can't separate, I'm fine with that, as opposed to him being a 2 that can't separate. He's a 4th. He's an undrafted rookie wide receiver, a former undrafted rookie wide receiver who is now in year 4 in the league and has done well to make a career for himself. If he can't separate, okay, that's fine. He was never meant to, but he can play all 3 positions. That matters. Jared T. Black says Dowell is last. I don't know that he's last, but he's I don't think Colton Dowell is going to make the roster. I wouldn't put, again, it's just over Harrison. I wouldn't put him over Treylon Harrison. But as a draft pick, you probably favor him over somebody like Who would I put him over? Gavin Holmes, maybe, who's just a journeyman. Well, not a journeyman, a UDFA out of Baylor. Like, I don't necessarily think that, but there's not that big a difference between Colton Dow and Gavin Holmes, right? So, like, why would I immediately say that Gavin Holmes is the odd man out there when there's not much of a difference in what they're able to do? Beverly says of Treylon Burks, someone said he tore it. That's why I was confused. Well, like I said, you're saying someone said. I don't know who someone is. I want somebody cited specifically, and I want it to be vetted medical information. And if it's not coming from an NFL insider who I know is trustworthy, then I'm probably not taking it. I'm probably going to wait until whatever actually comes about, as opposed to seeing something from someone, right? I'm not getting mad at you, Beverly, right? I'm just saying, when you cite to me, when you guys come in the comments and say, well, someone said, well, who are you citing? Like, not to sound like an owl, but like, who are you citing that is disseminating this information to you? And is this person credible? And are you discerning enough to find that credibility? It's a lot easier to get got on the internet this day. Garrett Whitley says mixed reports today. See some success today from the Titans offense. Again, Garrett, I'm not in Minnesota. I'm going to be in Minnesota Friday and Saturday for the game. Sam went up for joint practices. It was hard for me to do it with the radio show right in the middle of the day and doing it from Minnesota. It was just going to be a little bit of a logistical cluster. So I didn't end up going to Minnesota for these 2 days. I'll be out there Friday and Saturday. So what I read and what I saw, offense didn't have its cleanest day. The defense looked badass. So, kind of what we expected, right? The defense is going to be their biggest strength, and the offense is going to have some question marks, and they need to figure these things out. I heard the offensive line got wrecked today, says Trippin' Titans. Well, like I said, I still have a lot of question marks about them, but we'll see how these things play out. Okay, so let's keep it moving, and let's do rising and falling. Whose stock rose, whose stock fell this week in sports? Let's talk about it together on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. We will discuss at length right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is made possible by True Matt Fitness in the Gulch. Somebody asked who replaced the Real Buck Rising with the person that sits in front of you today. True Matt Fitness did that. They replaced me. They got me the best version of me, and I could not be more grateful to them for it. Their workouts are awesome. If you're a group class person, I have enjoyed them. I really enjoy particularly Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's what works best for my schedule. I go for personal training. You have the option to do that too. But whether you want to take one of their group classes that are scheduled Monday afternoon and evening, or sign up for your own personal training, or just become a member and use their open gym facility conveniently located in the Gulch in downtown Nashville, as you please. You can do all of those things to your at your will at truemattfitness.com, where you can also go to sign up for your first workout free and see all of the things that they have to offer in person. Okay. Take Ease says that Clone Buck called Jamie Foxx. Not quite. But we appreciate all the great work that True Matt Fitness did to help me cut it down before football season, because we're getting a little puffy there for a while, kids. Thank you. Which you guys were always very kind to point out to me. And, the fact that I'm spending 4 hours a day in front of a camera certainly was not helping that at any point. I guess it did help it at that point to kind of get me back into shape. Anyway, so can Messi kick field goals for the Titans, says B French? Well, perhaps you can talk him into staying. You'll have to do it, because I won't be in Nashville. I'll be watching Julius Chestnut average 2.5 yards a carry in Minnesota, which I'm not bitter about at all whatsoever. Honestly, like, the Nashville SC shit is crazy. I mean, insane. And I would give anything to be able to go to that game instead of doing the preseason game in Minnesota. I know that sounds ungrateful. I know I should be eternally grateful. I really, despite how I sound sometimes, I am eternally grateful for the job that I get to do. But yeah, it sucks ass that I'm going to be in Minnesota while everybody else is at Geoda's Park, witnessing the biggest star in international sports play here in Music City for a cup final, for a Leagues Cup final. It's going to be a really, really cool experience. So whose stock rose, whose stock fell this week in sports? Speaking of that, we've got a couple of different nominees to choose from. I think that Nashville SC is a great nominee, to be honest with you. So I don't know if Messi is capable of kicking field goals. You're going to take the old high school football approach. I feel like every time you didn't know if a high school football coach didn't know if they had a kicker or not, they just go recruit the laziest kid on the soccer team and come in and have them kick field goals. That was exactly what happened for our high school football team. Harry Hatfield, I still remember him. Soccer team hated him. We loved him because he was the best kicker that I think we had at any point throughout the course of my high school football career. Anyway, so whose stock rose, whose stock fell? We will discuss at length together. Hopefully this video file that I'm uploading doesn't start playing as soon as I upload it, but we will see. We will discuss right after I've already reminded you about True Math Fitness and the GOAT, so let's read some. Eric Alonso says, Chestnut over Messi. Christian Tomas says, my boy Martin Truex is rising. That's all I care about. Texas Titan says, with your record, Buck, it's good that you're not going. I know. Like, the fact that I am going to be out of state means they have no excuse but to win. Like, I hate that I can't go. But the fact that I'm literally defeated in every game that I have been to, that I've paid to go to, and I've paid to go to Preds games, Nashville SC games, Sounds games in the last calendar year. The fact that I have not seen a local professional team that I have either paid to be in attendance for or been paid to cover, like the Tennessee Titans, the fact that I haven't seen with my own two eyes a local professional sports team in person win a game since November the damn 17th. It's a good thing that I'm not going to be at Geodis Park. I would love to be there. It's good that I can't, because apparently there was a curse, and I do not want to contribute to that. But stock up, absolutely. Stock down me who can't go to Geodis Park, but stock up Nashville SC and our dear friend and colleague Lucas Panzica, who is on the call for Nashville SC as their radio broadcast voice. We're always happy to have Lucas part of the radio show, even if, we like to take shots at each other. It's just how we set the radio show up. It's a good time. But it was really, really cool for Bert and I to kind of sit back and let, embarrass Lucas with how damn good he was on the call of that broadcast last night.
Center forward to just help this team get to that next level. And we're watching it happen right now. 3 goals in 3 games. And he has yet to make his first start for Nashville. Still kind of getting acclimated after coming in a few weeks ago. So, yes, Sam Surridge's start to his time in Music City just could not have started better.
And they weren't done, because in extra time, Fafa Pico got some action as well.
Headed on to Pico. Here's Fafa Pico, Nashville 3-on-3. Pico right side of the box, cuts it back. Pico on his left foot, strike! Pico kills it off! Delirium! 2-0 Nashville. Here's the kickoff from Monterrey. There's the final whistle from Castellanos. History! Nashville Soccer Club are Leagues Cup finalists.
I'm so proud of him. Look at him, Bert. Look at our guy go.
Delirium!
That's badass, bud.
Man, I appreciate it.
That's sick.
That was so much fun. I feel so lucky to have been up there. Shout out to Jaleel Anibaba, our analyst on these calls. Jaleel provides insight, provides perspective from a 12-year MLS veteran, from a former Nashville player, and he is really a joy to work with. And that place was just electric. I mean, I can't put into words how loud it was. I understand it's only been open for a year and a half, Geodis Park, but I've never heard that place jumping like that. And it wasn't like the Club America game that we talked about, the chaos that ensued.
Or it's just, it's manic, insanity everywhere. Spilling out from the stands onto the pitch, and you saw
Quite
Nashville
literally.
SC put out a $15,000 fine warning on their social media accounts. Try it.
15 grand, you're going to jail, and you're never walking into an MLS stadium again. So no pitch invaders this time around.
Which would be unfortunate, because Saturday night.
Yes.
And you know what Saturday night is? Saturday night is messy at Geodis Park. Burning Devil 2010 says, damn, that soccer game must be super important if you'd rather be there. Well, I mean, in true transparency, I'd rather be anywhere but a preseason game, like especially a road night preseason game. Like, what did I do to the football gods to deserve such crimes, such punishment. But so truthfully, I would rather be just about anywhere than where that's not true. It's, like I said, it's a necessary part of the process. If players have to go through training camp, then this is my training camp, right? That's fine. I'll grind it out. But the soccer game is super important. There's never been a bigger soccer game played in the city. There's not going to be, like, in terms of international consumption. All right. Lucas and I did this exercise on the radio show today. The biggest sports star in America is Tom Brady. Tom Brady has, just to use Instagram as an example here, Tom Brady has 14 million Instagram followers. That's a ton, right? Most famous American athlete, even though Tom Brady is not currently an active athlete. I guess Mahomes is probably next, and he's right around 5 million. Okay. Just again, using Instagram as an example for this. So if Mahomes is 5 and Brady is 14, and let's say Taylor Swift is 250 million people on Instagram. The fact that Lionel Messi has 480 million, almost 500 million people that follow him on one social media platform tells you the scale. These tickets are selling. I mean, the lower bowl tickets, like in the front 5 rows, they're going to be going for 15 grand by the end of this. This is a huge, huge event. There's not a bigger star anywhere in the world of sports, anywhere in the world, than is Lionel Messi. He's coming off a World Cup win at Argentina. He's just joined MLS. He's going to be turned into the biggest star that league has, clearly and obviously, where previously Nashville SC had the best player in MLS, Hani Mukhtar. Hani Mukhtar, previously best player in MLS. Now Lionel Messi for Inter Miami, taking a club at the bottom of the table, and he hasn't yet to play an actual MLS game. This is all Leagues Cup competition, which is an inter-season competition that they have right now. So it's not a part of MLS, theoretically, even though these two are MLS clubs. These, it's possible that Lionel Messi come out there and continue to dominate. The fact he has something like 9 goals in 6 games. It's crazy what's happening. I cannot emphasize. Jay Benitez says, y'all weird talking shit about football. Yeah. If you're talking shit on soccer, then there's a degree of ignorance in that I can't help you with. Ricky W says, how does Buck even have this job? This is the only chance you get to evaluate Willis and Levis, and he's crying. He's the most lazy person I've ever seen. Yeah, you're right. And I still have this job. So whatever I'm doing it right. Right enough to still have this job, and right enough to continue to be sent on preseason games and regular season games and to cover Super Bowls and all the different cool shit that I get to do and most people don't, because I have this job and nobody else does. It's awesome. That's going to do it for us tonight on the Primetime Show. We appreciate you spending your time here with us Sunday through Thursday evening. It's always a great pleasure to hang out with each and every one of you. Radio show tomorrow. So the rest of the week, we're going to have some good guests. Jimmy Wyatt is going to join us from Minnesota. So we will talk about the quarterbacks and the work that they're getting in joint camp against Minnesota. We will also on Friday have Mina Kimes of ESPN. And we look forward to having our friend Mina join the radio show. I don't think she's been on in about a year. And she was texting me throughout the course of the preseason game in Chicago on Saturday. She had gone out of her way to watch Will Levis specifically, kind of paying attention to all the rookie quarterbacks in their first live NFL reps. And so looking forward to having Mina's evaluation of the Titans and the rookie quarterbacks on Friday's radio show before I fly up to Minnesota and continue to do the job that people keep paying me to do. We love to see it. Have a great rest of your evening. Talk to you guys tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
Are you surprised to hear that?
Certainly not. The first year we took it to the limit. And I was in Miami with my new beach house. Well, it was a couple minutes from the beach.
It's been 20 years since then. We haven't been too strong in the last few years.
Oh, we've been strong. We're just playing by the rules. You can't have a newcomer come in and steal the show.